Okay, so this is how to use the Brother sewing machine. This is model JX2517. JX2517. So first things first, there's an on-off switch on the right side of the machine. So I'm just gonna turn the machine so you can see the on-off switch. So right here, that's our on-off switch, and the light comes on. And then this is our connector so that we can have our foot pedal on the floor in a comfortable location where you can reach it to step on. And also the second part of that connector is for the plug. So now I'm going to turn the machine back around to the front. You're going to notice right here is a reverse button. So when you sew backward, you push and hold that and step on the foot pedal. And then there are different stitch selectors. So the stitches are right here on this dial, and you just turn them simply. These are the different stitches that are available. So I'm going to turn it to a number 9, and it's right there on 9. And a 9 is a straight stitch. 10 is the longest straight stitch, which means the easiest one that will come out. 9 is a little bit smaller, and that's the one that I recommend that you practice with, either a 9 or an 8. Those are tighter, smaller stitches. 6 is super tight, but we don't need to worry about sewing super tight for these purposes. There are also zigzag stitches that go left and right, and that's 2, 3, and 4. And then there's a set of zigzag stitches that go left and right that are 5. Those stitches are probably the second most popular that you will be using. So the first stitch that you'll use the most is the straight stitch. Again, I recommend 8 and 9. Those are about the smallest that you would probably want to go when you're sewing clothing together. Also, there's decorative stitches. So if you take a look at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, that gives you decorative elements. You may want to use some of those or may not. At the very top of the machine, we have 1 A, B, C, and D, and that is for the buttonhole. So you may use that as well. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. I'm just going to bring this a little closer. And for some of the basics, we're talking about the very top of the machine. And that is going to be where we put our thread. So I have thread here, and we put it on the spindle. So when you set on your thread on the top of that spindle, you want to make sure it comes off from the back of your thread, and if you pull it, it should turn counterclockwise going towards the left. Now I'm just going to tilt the machine so you can see the top of it right here, this gray slot. That's really important because that's our first step for our thread. So we just want to make sure we take our thread and put it from the back to the front of that slot. So that gray slot is step number 1 for our thread, and we put it from the back to the front. Now if I set this back up right, the next step, we want to make sure our thread comes down right here. So you can see it's going to come down this long opening, and then we want it to go underneath that dial and then back up. So there's our dial, and then it's going to come back up. Now take your right hand, and what you want to do is turn the wheel on the side of your table towards you. So with my right hand, I'm going to turn this wheel towards me, and then keep looking, and you'll see if you turn it a little forward and a little back, you'll see there's a hook inside where I am pointing here, and that hook goes up and down in connection with the wheel and how we turn it. So turn it so that the hook is in the highest position. Now I can take my thread and go on the right side of the hook and then the left side of the hook. Now I'm going to come back down the second side of our opening. Okay, let's repeat that process one more time. So I'm just going to take the thread completely off of the spindle and out of the machine, and I'm going to set it back on the spindle. So remember, our thread should be coming off from the back of our thread itself. Put it on the spindle to double check to make sure it's coming from the back. Pull slightly towards the left and it should turn counterclockwise or left. Then we go from the back to the front of our hook that is on the top of our machine, and I'll just tilt and show you that once more. Right there, from the back to the front of that hook. Now we're going to come straight down the first opening on the right side underneath our dial. That dial is for our tension. Then we're coming up, and if you don't see the hook, you can go on ahead and take your right hand, turn that wheel and raise that hook up. So my hook is already at the highest position, so I'm going to let the wheel go. I'm going to place the thread on the right side of the hook and then the left side of the hook, and then I'm going to come down the opening and let the thread go. Now I want to tilt, so I'm going to bring the machine closer and tilt backward. So take a really good look. There is a needle, and our needle is right there, so I'm just going to move that thread out of the way. That's our needle, but right above the needle there is a second safety hook. So the way that I am able, I'm going to slide this back into place to get that thread through the safety hook, is I have the tail of my thread, I'm going to pull a nice long distance here, is in my left hand, about 1 or 2 inches away in my left hand. Now my right hand is at the very edge. So I have about a 2-inch space between my right hand and the left. So that's important. So I'm going to drop the thread one more time. I'm going to pick it up, and with my left hand I'm about 2 inches from the very end of the thread, and with my right hand I'm going to go to the very edge of the thread. Now I'm going to take my right thumb and put it on the very top of that safety and then pull forward. I'm holding the thread in my left hand still continually. And that is how you are able to get your thread to go into that last little safety. Next, you're going to want to thread your machine from the front of your needle to the back. So I'm going to push down on my presser foot and move that out of the way. That comes off very easily and goes back on very easily. So I am just putting that thread in the eye of the needle. Now notice I have my index finger and I'm holding that thread and I'm going to pull it through. So that makes sure that it doesn't fall out. So I was holding that thread with my index finger. And now I'm just going to pull that thread, and now it's nice and straight and it's in the eye of the needle. Next, I have this presser foot. We call this a presser foot because it actually does look like a foot. This looks like a toe, and we press down on the fabric with it. So this bar right here in the middle is how we connect. So if I lay this bar and I find the presser foot lever with my hand. So I'm going to show you where that is. I'm going to turn this machine slightly to the side, and right here there's a white lever. So I just want to make sure that you can see that white lever right here. It's towards the back and it's on the inside of the machine. If I lift up on it, that will raise the presser foot up. If I push down on it, that will push the presser foot down. So I'm going to turn this back to the front, and I'm lowering that lever. So now I have just connected my presser foot back to the presser foot itself. Now the whole component is one. So now I'm going to take my thread and put it through that slot in our presser foot and to the back of our machine. Well done, you have just threaded your entire sewing machine.